Welcome back to Daily 615, where Jaedong's teaching us how to be a better gamer by being kick-ass. We haven't quite gotten the chance to see it. I would say that almost everything that we've seen of the Jdong Oz game is standard looking. Now's when things start to get cool. And always remember the two things that we have talked about in part 1. First, that getting 5th and 6th bases for Zerg is very hard with Hive tech because or I should say, is very hard with late game because Broodlords and Swarm Hosts are so slow. And 2, Zerg doesn't want to devote too many resources to mid-game units that are bad late game because Protoss is guaranteed to get 4 bases on Akilon Wastes. Stepping into the game, we're going to start to, again, pull back. How does Jdong answer this? I'm actually going to Alt-F it, so that way we can actually see Oz in a bright, colorful red on the mini-map. What is Oz to do? Well, we've already seen him set down his 3rd Nexus. Jdong, I just love this immediate response from Jaedong. Why does this make so much sense, double evolution chamber? Well, double pylon block at the start, that delays Oz. Throwing down this Nexus, that delays Oz. Oz has given us the gift of time. So any play we make should exploit the time that we have been given. Massing up an army, very bad play to do right now. Extremely weak play to do right now. You might think you're being fancy and breaking in and doing an elegant timing. We love to use the word timing. I guess thrown around. That's one of those buzzwords that people will use no matter what skill level they're at. Just like, oh, it's a very nice timing. Makes you sound in the know. But it doesn't really exploit the fact that we know we won't be pressured for a long amount of time. Certainly, if you get advanced enough, you can easily break through some really flimsy defenses. But going for double upgrade, that will always work. This always works. This is so great. Going for double upgrades immediately. Before a Roach Warren, mind you. Before Zergling Speed. Before a layer. Just going straight into upgrades. Love it. Love it. Absolutely beautiful play. Jdong doesn't have enough for layer yet. He's burned all that money on the upgrades. But you know what? Let's get a layer 2. Have we gotten a Roach Warren? Have we gotten Zergling Speed? Of course not. Anything that he would do is delayed. Wait, have we gotten Spore Crawlers? Have we gotten detection to deal with DTs or anti-air to deal with air? No, because everything he's doing has been delayed. In the meantime, Jaedong's being a total kick-ass, badass, boss-ass, and just droning like crazy, droning like Liquid Ret would do. And then subsequently spawning pool speed. This is like, I would say just general, this is like the cleanup play. You just get Roach Warren and Zergling Speed just because you do. But now look at all the other sexy things that we're seeing. Gas. Gas, gas. All the gas. All the gas. There's about 5 very significant things that Jdong did in a row just because he knows his opponent was delayed. Upgrades before everything. Then getting layer before getting the key defensive structures, the Zergling Speed and the Roach Warren, which he still eventually got. Building 0 defense, no spine crawlers, no spore crawlers, and actually let me double check, no extra queens, still just at 3. And the 4 gas geysers. Talk about powering, man. Yeah! This is honestly one of the hardest things to see happening unless you're unless you're like me and you watch several hours of games a day. Because every Zerg player will eventually get all these things. Gases tend to be the most overlooked element of build orders. People like to see flary things, you know, like, oh my god, he got a Baneling Nest, what a genius. Oh geez, a 6th thing? Is Jdong really going to take a 4th base? Hell yeah, he is, man.
Our forces are under attack.
Just nice, subtle little timings with all the things. But very, very significant outcomes. This is so good. This is so good. Alright, so do we know what's up? Nope. Gonna go ahead and get the Overseer, that's fine. This is another one of these just smart, well-rounded plays. Hydralisk Den, Infestation Pit, upon this being done. Hydra Den will solve almost all of our problems. The big problems it won't solve is someone going Colossus, but you know what? Our opponent is going to be delayed, man. Super delayed. So he pops in, sees one of the weirdest things you will ever see at this point. A player going for 3 Stargate Phoenix. Now, 3 Stargate Void Ray totally happens. 3 Stargate Phoenix, not a chance. 10 minutes, I will pause it. Because here's the period where it's the danger zone for Zerg. All the stuff I just said in part 1 becomes much more accentuated if you're against a 3-base Protoss. A 3-base Protoss has a very easy time just careening straight into late game. And you, the Zerg player, do you build a bunch of Roach Hydra because you need to defend a push? This is a 3-base Protoss. All his pushes are going to be much larger than a 2-base Protoss. Okay, so I guess I better start building mid-game, right? Well, what if Oz just plays passively and takes a 4th base, and you built all these mid-game units? Then you're going to be totally screwed when he waits till he's maxed. Especially on Akilon Wastes. I mean, if you just look at these alleyways, these are very thin, very thin. There's really no place to surround your opponent except for here and here. So most Protosses will just kind of peek out and then sort of slip up. And even then you can't get a surround because the Protoss is just cutting you off along this top side. The Watchtower prevents the surround from the other angle. So this is a dangerous, dangerous period. So let's see how Jdong doesn't overbuild his layer units. Oops, let's go ahead and go to the Jdong cam. We don't have any vision. Still going for mass gas, the double assimilator. And first and foremost, building the Hydralisks. This is a classic smart play. Building the Spore Crawlers upon seeing everything that's up, classic smart play. Couple corners being cut, not 2 Spore Crawlers at each base, but 2 Spore Crawlers at the exposed bases. And things that are more towards the center, just 1 Spore Crawler. I know it's just 125 minerals, it's just a drone and a Spore Crawler, but, you know, little bits of efficiency should be respected. No vision, not a lick of vision on the map. boy, did I feel like I was from the Midwest there. Not a lick of vision. Il n'y a pas de lick de vision. So, okay, cool. Spreading himself out. Still examining what could be going at him. Very common play. Opening up with Hydras. Not a lot of Roaches. The plan for Jdong right now is if he starts to see a big push coming up, a really big threatening push that has, say, a lot of Templar, has a lot of Speed Zealots, has a lot of Colossus, then he'll stop building the Hydralisks. But he doesn't see that, so he's just going for the Hydras. And the 3 Infestors. Already, just note, Jaedong is not devoting hardly any larvae to Zerglings and Roaches. It's largely Hydras and some Infestor already beginning the steps towards that late game. Hydras function much better in the late game than Roaches do. Roaches tend to just stink. I hate Roaches. A little bit of rearrangement of the Spore Crawlers. This is all fine. Still Hydras being produced. And there's actually a lot more larvae than Jdong can spend. Much more larvae. Now, when I was watching this, I was just like, okay, well, that's a mistake. Okay, I have these like rules that have just been like imbued into my bones. I'm sure if you just like carved them away, there'd be little sigils that aliens would decrypt and be like, I guess this human macroed. Like, that's like, for me, if you have money, you spend the money. This is not the Command and Conquer 1 campaign, which I found out when I was 23. However much money you had at the end of a mission actually did contribute to the next mission, which is fucking bullshit, right? I even macroed when I was 9. But seriously, spend the money, right? Spend the money. If you have too much of a thing, figure out a way to get less of that. If you have 20 larvae, you figure out a way to spend the larvae. You could not get as many queens and just get more creep tumors and spread the creep. That's a way to reduce this larva. You could be getting more drones. That way you'd have enough money to spend the larva. And if you say something like, well, it's bad, you have 80 drones, you already have too many drones, then yeah, Go back to solution 1, where you just get creep tumors instead of injects, okay? That's what the aliens will discover. So when I watched this, I was like, ugh. But we're going to see Jaedong utilize this to his advantage later in a way that I just find quite brilliant. First and foremost, Jaedong. The Dong gets up his Hydralisk army and is looking good. He's looking able to defend this attack. But Oz never really quite gets the opportunity to make it up at the front lines. And I was just looking at this and I was like, no, Jaedong, because I wanted Jaedong to advance. I'm not going to lie. I'm a Jaedong fanboy to the core, man. Like, seriously, if he went into Scrabble, I would follow him to Scrabble tournament. Yeah, Jaedong fighting! And if you find words like castricatris, which apparently is a word, I would cheer him on. I would learn words just to be able to respect him more greatly. But when I was looking at him here, I was like, ugh. There's the 2-2 upgrades are going to be coming up. Makes a lot of sense to me. There it is. They spent all that cash. Money's in the bank, not being spent. Okay, that's reasonable. You could throw down a hatch here. But this push, here's the suck moment for Zerg. When you commence the push, you know you can't get in. Because this is Akilon Wastes. It's the perfect defense map. But what I started to see here is that Jdong never actually had the intention of breaking in. Jdong getting the Hive. Jdong getting the Infestors. Jdong having the money to build units but just stopping. Jdong having an excess of larvae and still injecting more larvae. Something was amiss. But what was to happen? Find out as we continue the daily. So first, here's the expand coming out. This is a mid-game army. Largely Hydras, couple of Infestors, getting the burrow up. A mid-game army does have the ability to get 5th bases. These guys aren't going to do anything, so they go ahead and just do that. There's the 5th base going down. Here's the Mega Doom army from Oz that will absolutely be able to take a 4th base. I actually think the probes are right there, yeah. So upon achieving Hive Tech, come on Jdong, I believe in you. Upon achieving Hive Tech, a pair of Vipers appear. Now I want you to take a look at Jdong's money that's just getting very, very high. It's actually leaving space up there. Here's the big brain exploding moment. Jdong is literally going to just leave empty supply. These two numbers are going to get farther and farther apart. We're going to be at like 150 of 200 soon. And Jdong is leaving all his money and his supply up. Because of the following if-then statement. If you commence a huge attack and try to take me down, I'll just flood a ton of units. So that way, I can hold it off. If you don't attack, and you're trying to go toe-to-toe with me late game, I'll just build, or if you build up a bunch of stuff and you stay passive, I don't build anything. I just wait until I have enough gas to get Corruptors and Broodlords and that sort of thing. So Jdong sort of accomplishes both ends of this if-then statement. He's not going to be overbuilding the wrong army and then losing to a Protoss who gets really passive. And he's not going to be teching too quickly to Hive and having no choices if his opponent is going for a big aggressive push. He's just going to leave the larva open. Now, it doesn't quite look like that at this juncture. This is a timing attack designed to try to hit a Protoss who is going for this 4th base. That's pretty standard stuff. Good distraction tactics to get this base up. Nice, 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 etc., etc., etc. Good, 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 good.
Mineral field depleted.
A Zerg player being maxed and stockpiling money is no problem at all. But Jdong can't sit passively, because what did we just say? Well, if Jdong sits passively and Oz builds up his perfect death army, then Jdong runs the risk of losing, of being unable to replenish things properly. So this engagement is great for 2 reasons. The obvious one is the abducts. being able to pick off key units. But the second one is to remove some supply. Here's the pulls. Getting some of those key units down. These Hydras, not sensational in late game, but that's fine. All our infestors are largely going to be able to stay alive. But watch Jaedong's money. Here's the money moment right here. You like that? Call that a pun where I'm from. We don't call it a joke, we call it a pun. Sort of like pun proper. Because not necessarily anybody laughed, but still, this is the money moment. Just chills. In the unit count, 67 larvae. 67 larvae. Good fungals. A reasonable army, but in production, not a lot. Now, Jdong is not forgetting to produce. In fact, I'm just going to go to the Jdong cam. We're actually going to see that he's still injecting in the midst of all this. Okay, look at him at the bottom. He's selecting his unit-producing structures. Nothing. He's injecting. He's injecting and selecting. Look at that. Just chilling at 143 of 200. He's chilling at 143 of 200 supply. Because again, most of the time, Zerg players would be just flooding right now. However, Jdong has two things. He has the mobile army he needs to defend this 5th base, because, hell, he can just flood 40 supply of roaches. But also, he has the money and the supply left over to get up his money mix of corruptors should he need it for the late game. This is brilliant. This is so good. He's getting a couple Zerglings to do little harassment tactic-y things, but look at how not spent that money is. And now he starts to see this army move out. Okay, cool. Now Jaedong's, he's getting his 1-1 ups. He's getting his double Spire tech. He begins to see this push coming out, and he just identifies what he needs to do for this. Is this a very gateway-heavy unit mix? Well, it has a lot of zealots, but it's largely a Colossus and Void Ray Force. So great. 18 Hydralisk made. Plenty of money left over to build out more Hydras. Okay, of course, goes for it. So cool. If it were a super gateway-focused army, he may very well go for more roaches in this circumstance. Zerglings to do a little annoying counterattack. But remember when we looked at Hive versus Rain, and we went to this whole entire map view, we saw that there were Zealot counterattacks that kept picking off the 5th base, like this one. And this is not a mess-around Zealot counterattack. This is a huge one. He's going to swing up here. There's the burrow. This, most of the time, is a dead expansion with an out-of-position Zerg. But look at this. Jdong, able to hold it off easily. And at the same time, there's a huge push that's happening up here. And because Jdong has a mobile army, he just kills off the Zealots and then just waltzes right over there. No problem. Picks off some money units. And because I love that so much, and because this is my show, we're going to take a look at that again from the minimap cam. Yeah, alright. This is just so good. So again, we see that this army begins to move up, and this is right when the Hydralisks are getting made to deal with this army. You'll see them just joining up in mid in a moment. Actually, this is so cool. See, here's all the Zealots on the minimap. Here's all the rest of the Hydras that have just popped out up on this top side. So we see the same kind of movement that we saw in Rain Hive at Part 1. This big army moves up here, while this little Zealot force is here. There's in fact a pylon right there to be able to do additional warp-ins. But yeah, and then Jdong just gets up there, and look at this. Oz has got to pull away. Now, that's some pretty that's just some pretty movement. So this totally sucks, but that's fine. Jdong is slowly but surely, at whatever pace Oz presents, that is the pace that Jdong will get his late game units up. Once again, Jdong has plenty of supply to get extra units, plenty of money to get extra units. Very easy to hold that C button and flood Corruptors. Jdong will do no such thing. He's going to calmly build those Corruptors. If another large force begins to invade, sure, why not? He'll build some extra... or if a big large force moves in to invade, sure, he'll build extra Corruptors, but he'll just patiently wait and build Broodlords with this extra supply. Big Zealot counterattack happens again, but it's ineffective because of this mid-game army. No Warp Prisms in this game, but if Warp Prisms showed up, it would not be a problem because of the Hydralisks. There's obviously. And then we got the chance to see this gorgeous, lovely defense from Jaedong. This is the army that kills the player that flooded too many roaches. I'll just say this again. This is the army. This is the attack that kills the guy who built way too many roaches and hydras right here. This is the panic moment where most people are just like, oh my god, I gotta get some defenses up. But Jdong is walking to this Protoss army to engage, so that way, if Protoss does have too scary a force, then Jdong has plenty of time. Look at this, just 7 Corruptors, losing a few dudes, just chilling. Chilling, going for late game, gonna be getting Broodlords here, just chilling. Big force coming in the bottom. No problem. Now that the huge force is coming in, yeah, that's when he's going to build Corruptors. Notice that this is a big army coming to a base, as opposed to the engagement here, which was Jaedong's army meeting Oz in the middle of nowhere. So certainly when Oz is choosing to engage the base, yeah, he'll try to set up the defense by flooding Corruptors there. And the Broodlords show up, and it's very easy for Protoss to delude himself into thinking that Jdong took a huge risk. It's very easy for Protoss to say something like, well, you went for Broodlords. I mean, gosh, you tried to go for your mega late game. I mean, if I had just attacked you earlier, you would have been dead. No, if you'd attacked earlier, then Jdong would have had 6k, 2k worth of roaches. You should have held the R button and boom. As Reisercar SC is saying, this is not right. Jdong is justifying every Gold Zerg's terrible macro. Thus, I present you with the magic of StarCraft 2. There are rules that we live by. If your money gets below 500, spend your money. Or if your money gets above 500, spend it. Spend your money. You want to spend the money. Jdong brilliantly held his money at a very key period of time, where most Zergs flip a coin and hope. Jdong just sat there. And it wasn't just sitting there and waiting to see what was up. It was sitting there and engaging, sitting there and trying to continually interact with the Protoss army, to know always what the Protoss army was doing, to where now, as we arrive here, Jdong is both able to have the late game army he wants, while having this mysterious and elusive 5th base. What a gorgeous situation we see Jdong in. However, Jdong has not won this game. There's still time left. Jdong trying to lock down his opponent's 5th as well. But having a lead with 10 gases to 8 is fantastic. We'll see how Jdong closes it out after this break. We're on a break.